Hi.
Hi. Hi. Hey bosses, coming to you live from my living room with my husband,
Hey, ladies.
Justin. We have been together for 20 years. Not all of those have been easy years. And a big part of that, not the only part of it by any means, but a part of that was the fact that we were not growing at the same pace. If you're in a situation where you want to figure out how to grow yourself when your spouse isn't, that's what we're going to talk about in this video today. Hopefully helping you understand some concepts, helping you understand some things that worked for us that you can apply in your own relationship to make sure that you're continuing to work on your goals, work on yourself, even if your partner is lagging a little bit behind. Yeah. So what I want to kind of describe first of all, and this was a picture that helped me a lot, was think of your marriage like a rubber band around the two of you, right? The two of you are inside this rubber band and you have your comfort zone. And as you start to grow and you're moving towards things, you're setting goals, you're really working on yourself, what it's going to do is start to stretch that rubber band. And that means it's naturally creating tension between the two of you. And that tension can be really scary, right? It can create a lot of arguments. It can make us feel as though we're outgrowing our spouses and as though our marriage isn't going to last. Those were definitely the things that went through my mind when we were going through this. Would it be the same that was going through your mind?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you start to grow apart sometimes.
We definitely went through times where it was like I would do massive amounts of growing and pull on this rubber band, creating all this tension. And then other times it wasn't that big of a deal, but it would kind of be back and forth. And the concept or the idea that I kept in mind was this rubber band didn't have to break, right? The rubber band breaking was based on the strength of our relationship, which is something that we could always work on. When I was feeling that tension, I made sure to make sure that I was working on the relationship. Because if you have a strong relationship, it doesn't matter if you're on different pages. You will get through it. You'll figure things out. Because one of the things that I learned was that we don't have to be on the same page with everything. There are certain things where it's certainly helpful.
Yeah.
There are certain things where it will be necessary, but there will be times when you are outpacing your partner, or even times when when your partner is going to be outpacing you. And the more that you strengthen your relationship, the better it will be.
I totally agree on that.
Easier you're going to get through those times. What we want to try to do is share some of the things that we found helpful to get us through those stages and ultimately eventually get us on the same page, but also sharing some of the things that were not so helpful. Primarily the things that
we were always on the same page, by the way.
We were not always on the same page. But some of the things that I did that really made this so much harder and that put added strain and added tension on what was already there. So do you want to share kind of
Definitely
where I messed up?
Definitely. So I think from my experiences, Tara would do huge, massive amounts of growth, and she would expect me to catch up to her as quick as possible and push me along. She's like, why aren't you doing this? This is going to benefit you so much. And what I want to tell you guys is like, your husbands are on their own journey. They're doing their own thing at their own pace, and just meet them where they're at. Like, honestly, that's the best advice I could give you guys.
It's really, really true. The thing that I had to practice again and again, and what he would notice was all the times that I did bad. He wouldn't necessarily notice what was happening internally in between those times. And what I was trying to focus on in between those times was radical acceptance, understanding that this is his path, understanding and trusting his process, understanding that he didn't come into this life to change for me. He came into this life to experience what he gets to experience and do what he gets to do. And we just happen to be trying to support each other in that. And so I needed to change my perspective of what his role was in the marriage with me, right, as my partner, and changing my perspective of what my role was with him. And so I was really trying to focus on, again, radical acceptance. He is where he is because that's where he needs to be. And that does not need to change the thing that I know I need to do. But it had to come from radical acceptance. If I couldn't accept that he was his own person and accept that he was going to take this path and he was going to take whatever path he needed to take and love him where he was or where he ended up as. If I couldn't do that, we weren't going to have a marriage. And so just like he said, that's our first piece of advice, like radical acceptance. They are on their own journey. You have to kind of put your blinders on and focus in on your journey and just trust and appreciate where they're at and what they bring to the table and what they're able to give right now. And it may not be exactly what you're looking for. You may have to meet some of those needs in other ways.
Yeah.
But again, strengthen your relationship. And the more that you do it, the stronger you become. And ultimately, here's what happens with that rubber band. I would do the growing. It would create the tension. Maybe we would have an argument somewhere along the line. I would realize again that I need to chill out. And then eventually, whether that was weeks or months or sometimes years, he would start to catch up in that area. That process is so natural in relationships. And you just have to keep doing the work, showing up the way that you want to show up. Like, how do you want to show up as a partner? How do you want to love this other person exactly how they are? Practicing and working on that so that it gives them the open space and the freedom to do the exploration that they get to do that may have nothing to do with you.
That's a good point. The open space and the freedom was key.
Yeah, because how many times did I think you needed to read a book or that I think you needed to be able to do this one thing with me? But ultimately what that was doing was saying you need to be me instead of saying,
I don't like to be told what to do. So that's the worst.
What? We need to have a talk about that. No, for me, it's like I needed to realize that he comes with his own strengths, right? He comes with his own gifts and things that are going to complement mine very well. And most relationships are like that. The things that you're good at are not going to be the things that that other person needs to be good at because you're in a relationship together. That's your role. Like, it's my role to be able to help him check in with himself and meet his own needs. And it's his role to be able to make sure that we're checking in with everybody else
yeah.
and meeting everybody else's
There's other
needs.
people.
And I don't need him to be as self-aware as I am. And he doesn't need me to be as other aware as he is, because we're both honoring our strengths and our gifts in this relationship and remembering that we're in this together and we're bringing different things to the table. So yeah, that open space was really just about allowing him to figure out, what does he need? Like, what will help him get to the best version of himself, not necessarily what will get him on my page, as much as I often wanted you to just get on my page. I thought that would be easier, but honestly, if I was married to myself, like, it would not be a good thing.
So should we talk about like things that potentially helped me catch up to where she is?
Yeah.
From my view, like just dropping little hints was very helpful. Not telling me that I needed to do anything, but maybe telling your spouse things like
planting seeds.
Hey, check out this book. You know, I think you'd really like it. You pick up some good information out of it,
and then letting it go if they don't pick up the book. Just
let it go. Just drop little hints.
Maybe you plant another seed for that same book down the road.
I think she's honestly told me about one book like 20, 30 times over the past couple years.
That was the one we did a video on last week, by the way.
And I was like, well, why not give it a shot? And I picked it up, and I am not a reader by any means, and I'm probably 3/4 of the way through it. And enjoying it. I'm digging it quite a bit.
And I never, literally, he did not pick up that book when I told him to. He picked up that book years later, but it's when he needs it now and he's ready for it. And so it's making sense for him and it's clicking for him and it's the perfect timing for him. And so I looked at it like planting seeds, right? I don't know what seeds need to sprout for him. I can't tell you exactly what you need, right? If I saw something that I thought would be helpful, then I would plant that seed and I would mention it casually, but then let it go. Don't harp on it. Don't nag about it, because the more you do that, the more I did it, the more I saw defenses go up, right?
Yeah, especially well, I told you that. You could have checked out that book and you would have.
I don't ever do that,
we wouldn't be having
right?
this conversation.
I never say I told you so. Never whatsoever. It takes so much practice. And this is the thing. You're trying to grow yourself, right? You need to understand that this is part of growing yourself. Accepting where other people are is part of growing yourself. Unconditionally loving where other people are and who they are and their path and their journey is part of growing yourself. You signed up to grow yourself. welcome to the playground. Like, this is it. This is the work you get to do. So look at the challenge that you're experiencing.
So you're saying like I'm the bully on the playground or what?
No, you're the jungle gym on the playground, and never mind, I'm not going to go any further with that analogy.
Another thing that I want to point out that really helped us was having those hard conversations, or just conversations in general, where you might not meet or see eye to eye, but having them, you might not come to agreement on the first time or the second time or the 10th time.
Or the 100th time.
But being diligent about it because you both love each other and you want to get through it and find a common ground was really beneficial for us.
So many conversations. And it goes along with that planting seeds, right? Whenever I could, I would try to just let something go. But if it was something that was important, something that we needed to be on the same page about, like parenting, we would just have conversations over and over again. We didn't feel like we had to solve it right away. We felt like we really tried to be patient with each other. We tried to find a win-win. If we couldn't find a win-win, we tried to find a happy
compromise.
Yeah, like some sort of happy middle ground. And if it was a compromise that was sacrificing something that was important to me or sacrificing something that was important to him, I would always try to view that as a temporary compromise until we found that win-win. I was really always trying to orient myself towards, we can do this. We can figure this out together in a way that's going to meet all of our needs. And as we're having these conversations, that was my big focus. Like, what do I really need in this situation? What does he really need in this situation? Like, who are we and how do we show up and what are we actually needing? And focusing on the ways that we can meet those needs, not necessarily focusing on what we wanted to do, what we wanted to get, like what was our outcome or how do we think it needed to look. We were really just focusing on like, okay, but will something else meet all of these needs? Like, what's important to you, what's important to me, and how do we figure this out together? Now, I did say that we tried to be patient and we tried not to push topics before we could really find that resolution, but sometimes there were some urgent matters. And when those things came up, we found a counselor. And I think that so many marriages, they think that counseling is like a point of shame. They think they shouldn't need it. Marriage counseling, honestly, is not just for bad times. It's also for good times, and it's also for people like us that want to just get better and better. So there were times where we saw a counselor, not necessarily because things were bad, but because we knew that they could get better. And so if you're in that situation, I would really say, like, if there's something important that you can't compromise on, that you need to be on the same page, and it's more time sensitive, you can't just be patient and allow it to figure itself out, get your butts into counseling together. Like, get somebody who can mediate.
Have a third party.
Because there's going to be things that you can't see. There's going to be ways that they can support you that you can't do on your own. And marriage is not always a DIY project. Like, it takes a village to raise a happy couple. And we need to bring people into that as much as possible so that we can get to the other side of it and get to that place where you have that strong marriage. You are on the same page on the things that matter, and you are growing together versus apart. Okay, so hopefully we've covered everything, but if there's something that we're leaving out or a question that you have for either one of us, drop it in the comments below, and either myself or Justin, we will get.
She might have to plant the seeds on that one, but I'll try to get back to you guys if you guys have questions for me.
Make sure that you understand the most important thing to this is that you can continue to grow and nurture your relationship even if you guys are not growing at the same pace. It will take an extraordinary amount of patience and love on your end, and it's worth it. The time that you invest into yourself and into learning how to love this other person unconditionally, accepting them where they are, is going to get you to a place in your relationship that is beyond compare. We're in a place now.
It's better now than it ever has been, and it gets better day by day.
And we never thought that this was possible, but it became possible because I kept doing my own personal growth, because I was encouraging him, but accepting him where he was.
Allowing me my space.
Giving him his space.
To do my thing,
But also working on strengthening our relationship at the same time. So please don't give this up. Hopefully, again, this was helpful to you. Drop a comment below and let me know. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already. And I will see you in the next one. Oh, and let me know if you'd like more videos like this featuring my hunky husband. Thanks, guys. See you in the next one.